Good morning, dear students of class 12. Welcome to the English online learning class. Today, we are going to revise the lesson, The Lost Spring by Ernest Young. Now, a background of the author. Born in Rourkela, she spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad, received education in Hyderabad and US. Parents were writers and she began her career as a writer in India. Some of her noted work done, she was the editor of Youth Times and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad. Some of her authored books include Unveiling India, Night of the New Moon, Seven Sisters, Breaking the Silence, etc. And this lesson that we are going to take up, The Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. This lesson is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. Here, the author analyzes the grinding poverty and tradition which condemn the poor children to a life of exploitation. They are forced to become laborers, child laborers. The story has two parts. The first part is, sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. This is the first story about Sahib, a garbage picker, a rat picker. And story 2 is, I want to drive a car, where there is a child called Mukesh who's working in the bangle making industry. And he also shares his dreams. The author converses with Sahib, and during this conversation, she asks a question, why do not you go to school? Then the boy does not say that he does not go to school because he is a rag picker and his family conditions do not allow. But he says that there is no school in his neighborhood. Their family conditions does not allow them to lead life of normal children. They are excited at the prospect of finding a coin or even a 10 rupee note for rummaging in the garbage. Garbage is survival for the elders, but for these children, it is full of surprise. It is gold for them. Now, the author calls these rag pickers as morning birds on work. And as she encounters them almost every day, she strikes a conversation and learns that the parents have left behind life of poverty in Dhaka to earn a living in Delhi. And his family, like many other families of rag pickers, they live in Simapuri. Now, she also notices that these children are not wearing chappals. Due to poverty, they cannot afford slippers or shoes, but they are free-spirited and they are enjoyed and they revel their freedom like birds. These boys, they give an excuse for not wearing chappals. They call it a tradition to walk barefoot, or mother has forgotten to take them out from the shelf. But the reality is they cannot afford slippers or shoes. Their condition is poorer than a story which the writer mentions from Udupi, where the prayers of the children were accepted. And many years down the line, when she sees the place is visited again, the priest boys are wearing shoes and a bag. But the rag pickers' children, their condition is just the same since generation, and there is no hope of change for them. There is irony in Sahib's name. The writer is pained to see Sahib, a rag picker, whose name means the ruler of the earth. He has lost the spark of childhood and he roams barefooted with his rag picker friends. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. This is the title of the first story. These children are migrants from Bangladesh. They left green fields, rivers were flooded, and there was no grain. Storms had destroyed everything. So they were forced to leave their native land for a better life, and they migrated to Delhi. And they settled down in Simapuri, which is in the outskirts of Delhi, near yet far. Far symbolically, why? Because there are no water in taps, no sewage, drainage, no identity. But migrants have a ration card name on the voters' list. Now, Sahib, later, when the writer meets him, he has taken up work in a tea stall. Sahib likes to play tennis, but he's contented having discarded pair of shoes. Later, when the author meets, she comes to know he's working in a tea stall and is paid rupees 800. He sadly realizes that he is no longer his own master. This loss of identity weighs heavy on his tender shoulders. As a rag picker, he led a very carefree life. He was master of his own work. But as a tea stall worker, he is working under a master. So he has lost his freedom. Now there is another boy. Writer goes to Firozabad and the author meets Mukesh here. The author then tells about another victim in the story, and which is titled as I Want to Drive a Car. Mukesh wants to be a motor mechanic. He's from Firozabad, which is the center of India's bangle making and glass blowing industry. He has always worked in the glass making industry. Mukesh's family. Mukesh lives in a stinking surrounding with choked lanes, garbage piled all up, in a half-built shack with thatched dead grass roof, with iron door which is coming out, and his family of 3 generations, they live there. They use firewood, stove, and aluminum utensils. So, as far as development and progress is concerned, it is not to be seen in Firozabad. Now, the plight of child laborers is also shown through the story of another girl, Savita. Young unmarried girl belongs to a family of bangle makers in Firozabad. The author shows concerns that one day as she grows, she'll become a bride. But will she have eyesight to see the colors of her bangle, which is a symbol of suhag for Indian women? As far as glass bangle factory is concerned, it is the hub for bangle making, Firozabad. But the working places are horrible, small huts, dark, no light, very poor ventilation, high temperature, full of smoky lanes, shanty town, stink of garbage, hovels of disintegrating walls, unsteady doors, no windows, very narrow lane, overcrowding with humans and animals. Thousands of adults, 20,000 children, they work there, risking their eyes and health. Dust of polishing glass bangles adversely affect their eyes and lungs. Even skin diseases they are getting. As far as economic condition of the place is concerned, it is very bad. They are exploited by sahukars, middlemen, politicians, police, and bureaucrats. All profits are bagged by these people. Workers are not allowed to form cooperatives and are beaten and exploited. They are compelled to lead substandard, unhealthy, deprived life. There are hazards like accidents, loss of vision, skin burns, bronchitis, physical and mental weakness, genetic problems due to exposure to chemicals. Now, the writer has a suggestion to the young men. Why don't you form cooperatives? But they are not willing. Why? Because they are afraid to dream and take initiative. They can do nothing except carrying on their inherited business, which is the lineage of bangle making. But there is a child, Mukesh, whom the writer talks about in this lesson. He has a dream, and this dream is to be a motor mechanic. But the author has doubt whether will it be possible or he will not be able to achieve his dream. Why? When the author asks a question, few aeroplanes, why don't you fly an aeroplane? His reply is that he wants to be a motor mechanic only. Why? Because he had never seen aeroplane fly over Firozabad, or very few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad. Probably becoming a motor mechanic for Mukesh is a great challenge. He could never think of becoming a pilot. He wants to keep his dream attainable. There is passion in his dream. Message of the lesson is, it talks about the national shame of children being forced to live a life of poverty and exploitation. The lesson shares two stories of stolen childhood. The characters and places are different, but the problem is the same. Thousands of children like Sahib and Mukesh, they are condemned to live a life of misery and exploitation. They are not leading life of normal children. Grinding poverty traditions, they compel these children to work in the most inhuman and hostile conditions. The author succeeds in highlighting the plight, the pain, the problems of such unfortunate children who are child laborers. So the author sensitizes the readers that child labor is a curse. And some strong initiative needs to be taken to completely, although it is banned, child labor is banned, but it is still going on. So some strong step needs to be taken in order to put an end forever to the curse of child labor. We'll stop here and you go through the lesson. The study material related to the lesson has already been posted in your GCR. Please go through it and come up with your doubts and queries. Thank you, students. Have a nice day and take care.